Hello, everybody, and welcome to How to Turn Fear into Confidence that Creates Cash and how to create freedom while weathering this storm. There's a lot of stuff going on in our country, and this project, however, was a quarantine project of mine. And I'm so excited to have today's speaker expert. His name is Kevin Eikenberry. I hope I'm pronouncing it the German way. Kevin Eikenberry. I grew up in Germany, and I'm very excited to have him here. He is just a leader. He is a business consultant, and he is a coach. And guess what? He does not know that, but he made me print this guy out. This is my disc test. The Tony Robbins disc test, because I saw that he is a co-creator of this test. So I thought, okay, I'm going to print mine out again and figure out what I was. But
I'm not the co-creator of that one, but I am the co-creator of one of the disc assessments.
Oh, one of the discs. Oh, okay. So I'm going disc.
Okay. That's no problem. You can go to get Tony's, or people can go to discpersonalitytest.com.
Okay, so I just read you are a co-creator of the disc test. So I know that test. I have one of those. So, but I'll let you talk a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself, and then we can go into our topic on how to turn fear into confidence.
Well, Gabrielle, thanks for having me. My name is Kevin Eikenberry, and I am the proud owner of a company and I get the blessing every day to lead a great team of folks that are spread out across the United States. And we are in the leadership development business. We're in the business of helping more leaders make a bigger positive difference in the world. So that helps. That's a big pebble in the pond. And that's what we're trying to do every day to help leaders around the world. We help leaders in a variety of ways, including we do have a disc test, as you already mentioned, but a lot of our work is built around some of my books, including a lot of work today around remote leadership. I'm the co-author of a book called The Long Distance Leader, as well as the co-founder of the Remote Leadership Institute. So those are probably the most topical things today. But I'm a coach, speaker, author, father, husband, tractor collector. There you go.
Yes, I read that. You're a tractor collector. How exciting. So you grew up on a farm, right?
I'm the only guest that you're going to have that maybe not the only one that grew up on a farm, but the only one that collects tractors. People, first question they ask is real ones or toy ones? And the answer is both. But I have 13 antique tractors. And if people know anything about tractors, then they ask what kind, and most of them are John Deere. So there you go.
I just saw the most amazing tractor at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas in January. I mean, it's amazing, but I'm getting off topic here. Now I want to talk about the tractor I saw. But let's get into our topic. So there are a lot of people sitting at home. Some of them still might be at home. They might be on furlough, right? And there's high unemployment right now in the country. And there's a lot of fear, anxiety about the future. So what advice would you have? And typically, I'd like to know, first of all, how to get out of that feeling, out of that emotion of fear and step into that mode of creation. So what would you advise people that are feeling uneasy at home right now?
Well, first of all, I would say that you need to know that you're not alone. And second of all, if you're having those feelings, it's okay to have those feelings. It isn't necessarily, and if you're watching us, you probably agree with me, it's not okay necessarily to stay there. It's okay to be there. It's not okay to stay there. Gabrielle, when all of this started happening and March the 13th, I think, is when the first state said we're going to send everybody home, and all the basketball got canceled, which made me sad. And then starting that next week, the week of the 16th, states, it was like dropping like dominoes, right? On the morning of March the 16th, Monday, March the 16th, I told our team, I said, we are going to approach this with a positive proactive message. And that's everything that we're going to do is going to be guided by positive and proactive. Now, that wasn't a big change from what we already did, but I named it positive and proactive. And so if you're at home, unsure, unclear, uncertain, worried, stressed, anxious, whatever, you have to recognize that one of the ways to get past it is by taking some action, small action. Yes. So we have to create forward movement. And so that's where the idea of proactive comes in. Okay, here's where I'm at. Now what? My favorite 2-word question. Now what? Okay, here we are. Not now what, but now what? What can I do now? And then the other half of that is positive. So not everything around us has to be positive for us to be looking for positive. So I'll stop there and you can ask me whatever else you want to ask. Positive and proactive. There you go. There's a starting point.
That's beautiful. I mean, I've heard various of my experts say, so there's this common theme, and I've heard this, take action, right? So what you're saying is taking action will create the momentum and it will get you out of that fear zone. But what is it that happens when I go into action, in your opinion? How is that getting me out of that fear zone?
So first of all, let me just start there. There's a circle. I call it a wheel. And the wheel is thoughts and actions. And most people say, well, my thoughts lead to my actions. And most people say, like, if I think about something, it might lead me to, like, if I am thinking fearful things, then I'm going to be, my actions will be fear, right? So thoughts lead to actions, but actions also lead to thoughts. So here's the thing. Once we start to do something, it changes our thoughts, which allows us to keep moving. So I'm just going to give you a super simple example. And I'm not even talking about now. I'm talking sometime in your life, you've been sitting on the couch. And like, I'm sitting on the couch, I'm watching TV, I'm watching Netflix, whatever, and I've got like zero energy. I'm just like vegging out. And so my thoughts and my actions are in alignment. I'm just whatever, right? Someone calls you and says they're coming to visit. And in 5 minutes, you're a whirling dervish cleaning up the house before someone shows up. And then when they show up, what have you got? Energy galore. What changed? You took something changed. I had to take action. And once I took action, it shifted everything around. So momentum is a powerful thing. And so once we start, it's easier to keep going than if the ball stops. So, that's just, I think, a critical thing that we have to start taking action. And there's the quote that says, feel the fear and do it anyway. So we can acknowledge the fear. That's certainly fine. That's why I started with, don't judge yourself about that. Just say, I'm going to take action. And so my action might be, I'm going to go, I'm furloughed. I don't know. But you know what? In the back of my head, I always wanted to do this kind of business. You don't have to figure it all out today. You just get on the internet and start Googling something about that. Just watch more of Gabrielle's interviews. Do something to get started.
So tell me a little bit more about that, about thoughts. You mentioned that action, that momentum already got you into a different way of thinking. Talk to me how important those thoughts are that are going on in your head.
Well, they're critically important, but I want to actually go back a step. Where do the thoughts come from? Thoughts come from one of two places, basically. One is our inputs. So I would say if you are really in fear right now, check your inputs. What are you watching, reading, looking at? Like, everyone's saying all the negative stuff about the social media. I am fortunate. Well, I have Twitter and I've got lots and lots of followers, but for the most part, I'm never on Twitter. I have someone on my team that's putting content there, but I don't spend any time on Twitter. I spend a little bit of time on Facebook, but I'm fortunate because everyone that I'm friends with on Facebook, it's not a negative thing. So it's not taking me downward. But if it is, stop it. If you're watching the news for 4 hours, you don't need 4 hours. You need 4 minutes. That'll give you all you need. It's repeating. I'm not saying that you should not know anything. I'm saying think about your input. That's half of thoughts. The other half of thoughts is mindset. and we may get there before we're done. But the thoughts are critical because they jumpstart the action, or they reinforce the inaction, right? So they're absolutely critical.
You're speaking by language now you're speaking process language, inputs and outputs.
Outputs. All we got to do is have an audit now and you'll be happy.
What are the deliverables? So now that is beautiful. So what's your thoughts? So talk to me a little bit more about the wheel. You said you had that beautiful wheel.
Well, I mean, it's nothing new. But the reality is that, so if we change our inputs and our thoughts start to change, then we'll take, here's another simple example. Let's say that you're going to have a picnic a week from Thursday, and you're watching the weather, it's going to rain. And so if you're pretty sure it's going to rain, if your thoughts are it's going to rain, you're not even going to start planning the darned picnic. So but the reality is, if you say, hey, it's not going to rain, or if I'm noticing that it's not going to rain, or here's the thing, it's a 40% chance to rain. Are you thinking about the 40%, or are you thinking about the 60% chance that it's not going to rain? And chances are, even if it rains 40%, it's not going to rain all day. It's going to rain for a little bit. So like you start thinking about, okay, how do I mediate that? That's a potential problem. How do I mediate that? What do I think about that? What's our backup plan, et cetera, et cetera. But so all of the thoughts on the front end will change what you do. Or if you allow your thoughts to keep you in inaction, then you're in stress, anxiety, worry, fear, right?
That is beautiful. So now I took action. So my thoughts turned more positive, right? Because I'm focused on that action. And now, what's my next step? So now I want to get into that zone of creativity, confidence, and maybe into creating something new, right?
Yeah.
I'm getting into pivoting now. So what's the next step?
So here's the thing. It's a wheel. It's a spins, right? So we've talked about changing our thoughts to change our actions, but remember now that our actions also change our thoughts. So the more that we start doing something positive and proactive, the more our thoughts turn that way, which helps us spin this wheel again. And confidence will come and we say, hey, I didn't just do one thing. Look at the 12 things I've done today that move me in the direction of my goal. So, I mean, fundamentally, you've got to have the thought of what's the outcome that I want, whether that is to start a business, whether that is a side hustle, whatever that is, or whatever it is, right? You've got to have that picture of where you're trying to go. And so, but once you have that picture and you start the wheel spinning, confidence will come as you continue to spin the wheel. Like, look, I mean, I'm making some progress here, right?
Yes.
Look at that. I'm taking action, and you don't have to think about those actions as being huge things. What do I do next? What do I do? Here's what people do with a to-do list. Okay, so I've written a number of books, right? So here's what they write. Write book. Okay, no one's going to write a book today. No one is going to write a book today, at least of any length, right? So here's the thing. What you've got to do is say, what am I going to do today? Well, I'm going to research chapter 1. I'm going to outline the book today. I'm going to write 500 words today. Whatever that is. Different stages in the process, different piece. You have to break the tasks down, especially if you're in this place of being immobilized and fearful. You got to take a step that moves you in that direction. So you start to spin the wheel. That's what you need to do. Do something. Be intentional. Do something that moves you in the direction of what you want to move toward. So you're spinning the wheel in the direction you want to spin it, but just small steps, inch by inch.
So that is beautiful. So taking small steps that are not overwhelming, and then celebrating my wins, my accomplishments, right? That's definitely helpful. But what if I'm not quite in the creative zone and I don't have that list yet? Like, for example, write book, right? So how do I get into that list of write book or start an online show or start a podcast? So how do I get to that list?
Well, here's the thing. One of the biggest things that keeps people from being creative is they believe they're not. I mean, let's just be clear. Like, the thought or the belief or the mindset says, well, I'm not creative. Gabrielle, well, of course she's creative. I can list all these things I know about Gabrielle. No wonder she can do all that stuff. I can't do all that stuff. I'm not creative. And so let me just tell you a little story. So the story is, it's not really a story, it's a study that was done where they took 4-year-old children and they went through a process to determine their creative potential.
Mm.
And they found that 90, I believe it was 90, it's either 90 or 95, doesn't matter really. 90 or 95% of them graded as having high creative potential. Okay, it's a longitudinal study. So they brought those kids back at age 7 and did the same, whatever they did. I don't know all the research magic, right? What percentage of those kids graded out as having high creative potential at age 7? You want to guess? 5%.
Wow.
5%. Here's the point. So instead he's saying, well, I'm older than 7, so clearly I don't have it. No, that's not the point at all. I remember there was a time, Gabrielle, when my a long time ago, my son is an adult, but my son was in the house and I'm looking around the house to find my car keys. And I'm kind of like, disheveled, looking for the car keys. And Parker says, what are you doing, Dad? I said, I'm looking for my car keys. He says, well, I'm sorry you lost your keys. I said, I didn't lose my keys. And he's looking at me with that thought bubble like my father is a crazy person, right? And when I found my keys, I said, here they are. I found them. He said, they were lost. I said, they were not lost. They were misplaced. I had them and I got them back. That's the story of the creativity research. You had that creative potential. It's still there, but you can't start to unleash it and use it and have any confidence in it if you don't believe that's even possible. You have to believe that you do have some creative potential, and you just have to start maybe on faith and say, I'm gonna allow myself the belief that I can do that I can figure that out.
So get rid of that limiting belief that keeps you from your creativity, that you're not creative, right?
Remember, two inputs to the thoughts. One of those is inputs. The other one is mindset, or our beliefs. And all that is the lens that we look at the world through.
Right.
And world through the lens of I'm not creative, well, it doesn't matter how much you try to convince me of that.
And how do you
that for me?
So how do I find out really what I'm good at? So I always think, let's make a list, right, of stuff that I really love to do. And then there's a list of this is what I'm really good at, right? And then there is that list what I can make money with. So what are your thoughts on that? How am I going to pick like these things that and combine them and find that sweet spot?
Well, some people come at the world from do the thing you love and the money will follow.
Right.
I don't quite buy that. I mean, because there is a marketplace component here, right? Yes. Now, does that mean that we could probably find, well, I'll say two things. We may be able to find an example of anything that someone figured out how to make money at. And if, as one of my mentors said, if one then two, if you then me, which means that if someone can, maybe I can. But I think that you leave out the piece of, I mean, if people just play off passion, well, I'm passionate, the money's going to follow. I think you have to think about the marketplace and say, like, who am I really going to, if that's my goal, who do I need to attract? Who's my perfect customer? Who's the person that would be willing to, want to, can't wait to get out their wallet to pay me for that product or service? I don't think we can leave the marketplace out.
Right. So, and then it's all about what problem am I solving, right, for somebody? Well, what problem would I love to solve, right, for somebody? And then testing the market, right?
But here's the thing. It can't just be, I know they have that problem. They have to know they have that problem, and they have to want to solve it. So I'll use me as an example. I'm in the leadership development business.
Right.
You could argue that every organization has leaders that could be improved, that every organization has a leadership development problem. That's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. The only thing that's relevant is, and the only people, I'm not in the business of trying to convince them that they oughta. I'm in the business of trying to attract the ones who've already decided they're going to.
Yes, and raising the awareness, because a lot of companies, corporations out there, they don't believe in spending money on leadership.
So I'm not going to try to get them. I'm going to try to get the ones that have already decided. So they say, we're going to pick the Kevin Eikenberry group because there's still plenty of them.
Yes.
I'm not going to try to convert the unwashed. I'm going to try to get the ones to choose us and raise their hand. And so that's the thing. That's where the marketplace, I think, has to come into this puzzle.
So be clear as to what you are going to offer and be clear about your client, right? And then talk to me a little bit about pivoting.
Yeah, the pivot there is to make sure that it's not just I know that they need it, but how do I tap in to what they need, right? So, for example, as you and I are having this conversation, you already talked about the economy is not what it was at the end of January or the middle of February, right? Unemployment is in a very different place. But there are whole lots of business, and there are businesses. Like if I don't want to be in the airline business right now, right? 5% of the revenue on a monthly or weekly basis that they had, 5, 8, 9%. Like that's hard, right? Yes. However, then there's Zoom, for example, where you and I are right now, yes. Who just announced their earnings this afternoon, and everyone thought they were going to be good, and they're even better. And their stock is up 100% from where it was in early March. So there are opportunities always. So what we need to do, and maybe how we get out of the fear is look for the pivot is to find the opportunity, right? Yes. And so that's why it can't just be about navel gazing, and this is what I want to do. It's about what does the world need? What is the world yearning for right now? Like I'll give you 2 examples. In January, and nobody buying jigsaw puzzles. Nobody. Middle of March they were.
Yes.
No one ever worried about being able to buy yeast.
Yes. Good point.
I wish I were in the plexiglass business right now. I'll just give you 3 simple examples.
Yes, you're right.
I mean, I can't imagine that there isn't a plexiglass shortage. Think about it. Every place you go, there's plexiglass. None of those places had plexiglass before. We've got to look for where's the opportunity, right? Restaurants that I've heard of that, well, they can't serve enough customers, but they have freezer space and they have a wholesale account with a food supplier. So they went online and they started selling some food products like they were a small grocery. Why not look for the opportunity? That's where the pivot comes. The pivot comes from, you can't pivot if you're in fear because you're not moving, right? You can't pivot without moving. So you got to start moving, and then you just got to open your eyes to say, what do I see here? What do I see in front of me? And if my mindset says there's nothing to see, then I won't find it. Now, we only find it when we know there's something and we start searching for it. Where's Waldo? Waldo's there. I'm going to find him, right? I had no idea I mentioned Waldo on this call. Just say it.
Yes. So what I hear you say is find that opportunity, because during these times, right, of uncertainty, during times when we feel fear, there's always an opportunity. It's just to have an open mind to see it, right? So
you're not going to see it on CNN or Fox News. You're just not. Likely not. Likely not.
That's smart. Tomorrow I'm interviewing a financial advisor. Let's see what he will say. But how do I find do I go into stillness? How do I look? How do I get into that zone of seeing the opportunities? Do I simply shut off my TV, no news? And how do I get to those places, to those genius ideas of, let me invest in plexiglass, or let me look at that industry, or let me rethink my approach to my business? How do I get there?
Well, I think, we're talking about the news and all that stuff, and I don't think we want to watch so much of it that it actually starts to negatively impact our brain and our psyche. And yet we do need inputs to know what's going on around us, right? So I think the biggest thing I would say in the limited time that we have is we have to be more observant.
Yes.
We just have to pay more attention to what's going on around us. And here's the thing, whatever perspective we look at things, if we don't see anything, then we got to put a different perspective on. So that means, well, how would I look at this if I were 7 rather than my age, right? How would I look at this if I were my grandparents? What would they see here that I'm not seeing? So just be flat out in observing mode. So maybe that means being more quiet and you meditate and all those things. At some level, you know what works for you, go do it. But at some level, you've got to say, I'm going to be choosing to watch and look, and I got to keep my eyes open. So a number of years ago, this is a long time ago, my family and I are driving to Washington, D.C. I live in Indianapolis. Washington, D.C. is like a 9-hour drive, 8 or 9 hour drive. For some reason, we decided to drive there to see my sister and her family. I don't know why, Gabrielle, but we're driving to DC. We're like 8 hours into the 9-hour drive. I'm driving along, and all of a sudden, my son, who at the time was about 10, hits me on the shoulder really hard, and says, "Slug bug black, no tag backs." And I had no idea. First of all, hitting me is not a good plan, not in the protocol. And so I didn't know why he hit me, and I didn't know what he said. So I said, "What are you saying, Parker?" He says, "Slug bug black, no tag backs." I said, "I have no idea what you're saying." And he starts laughing, and my wife starts laughing, and my beautiful 4-year-old at the time starts laughing. Even Kelsey is laughing at me. And I'm like, "What are you guys talking about? You're speaking German." Well, laughing, watching, no, that he saw a Volkswagen. That's the bug. And the game is, I saw the black Volkswagen before you, so I get to hit you. It's a legal way to hit people in a car. That's the game. But I didn't know the game, okay? So they explained the game to me. I calmed down, explained the game to me. I said, "How about we play the game no hitting?" And they didn't like the no hitting part, but here's the point. I said, "We'll play and we'll keep score. We'll make it a game." Okay, so we decided to play the game. I have been driving, Gabrielle, for 8 hours. I've seen no Volkswagens. In the next 10 minutes, I saw 3.
Oh.
Here's the question. Were there Volkswagens before that?
Absolutely.
Probably.
Yes.
Now I'm seeing them. We have this thing in our brain. It's called the reticular activating system. And it's a filter between our subconscious and conscious minds. And it opens up when our conscious mind says, this is important for me. I'm looking for Volkswagens. And through the filter, they come. So if you say, I've decided I'm looking for opportunities all around me, I'm looking for it, and it will get through.
So that should work for money too, right?
Absolutely.
I love it. I love that. So what I hear you say is what you focus on will expand, will be there. It'll show up, right?
You got to expect it. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to show up in 3 minutes. Doesn't mean it's going to show up tomorrow, but
you'll see it.
It's a positive expectancy.
Ooh,
positive expectancy. It's not a guarantee. No guarantee. And it's no guarantee that the first one you see is the right one. But you got to keep the filter open, because if they don't get into the bucket, you can't look at them.
That's
they got
beautiful.
to get in before you can decide on which one you want to do.
Let them into the bucket. Be open. I love that. Okay, I know we have limited time, so I have one last question for you.
Okay.
So let's just pretend you're a centenarian, yeah, because you're healthy, right? So what would your 100-year-old Kevin tell the present self, the present Kevin? What kind of message would you give him about fear?
Fear is false evidence appearing real. So make sure that it's not. Make sure that you're not assuming that it's real before you know that it is. Know that action wins, and so keep doing. My 100-year voice to me today would be: keep doing what you're doing, do more of the important things, and sort out the important from the trivial urgent, and make better decisions there, because all we've all got the same amount of time. It's all about the choices we make with it. So my 100-year self would be saying to me, keep trying your best to make the right choices.
So that was beautiful. And Fear is false evidence appearing real.
Here you go.
So beautiful. Now that's a great message. So thank you. So how can people find you? So I want to know more about you because I really love your message. It really resonates with me. So how do I find you? And do you have a lot of my experts here have a free gift that they want to share with the audience? Do you have something that you would like to share?
Yeah, we're blessed. We have lots of free stuff that we would share with you.
Back.
I'm feeling like, here's the thing. I created, based on one of my books, Remarkable Leadership, we created what we call 13 Days to Remarkable Leadership. It's each day you get a video message with a story and an action planning tool each day for 13 days. And people can get that for free by going to kevineikenberry.com, KevinEikenberry.com/13 days. 13 days. KevinEikenberry.com/13 days. And people want to reach out to me directly and connect with me. LinkedIn is a great place to do that. And once you get there, you can find all the other stuff about us. If you can spell my name, you can find all sorts of stuff. And I'd love to have you reach out on LinkedIn and say, hey, I saw you on Gabrielle's show, and I'd be happy to answer any questions or talk to anybody there. So LinkedIn or KevinEikenberry.com/13 days.
Okay, that was beautiful. So we know where to find you, and you have an amazing gift where I can get your input, your beautiful coaching for 13 days in a row at no cost. So that is an amazing offer. And so I want to thank you for today's contribution. You are definitely somebody filled with joy, spirit, positive energy, and I can see you as a very, very powerful coach. So
thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be with you. Thanks for having me.
So thank you for this powerful interview, and I hope that our paths will connect again and cross. Thank you.